Was that your stuff?
What? I don't know if I'm hungry or about to shit myself. G'day and welcome to episode 1 of Guns, Hoses and Stretchers.
Oh, fuck, I wrote staging area wrong. No, I'm joking. Are you going to ask questions straight up? So you're just going to say, welcome to episode 2, we're talking about this, and then bam, fire into
I'll shut the fuck up. G'day and welcome. Did you lose your hearing?
Yeah, I was not prepared for that at all. I didn't think we were starting yet.
Welcome to episode 15 of the staging area. I'm, of course, Hayden Mack, and that is Simon Roy Lance.
Hello.
And we've decided to come back into the studio and sit down because last episode was a bit weird towards the end of it.
I feel like I need to turn my headphones down, otherwise
you're going to bust an eardrum.
I'm going to bust an eardrum, a second eardrum. This is really loud at the moment.
Is that better?
That's really loud still. That's really...
Is it
I can't hear anything now. That's perfect.
What do you mean you can't hear anything?
That's better. Right there. That's good.
All right.
That's our normal volume.
We thought that we would come down and get in the studio again because we both started drifting off camera. You left the screen.
I actually still haven't watched
that
yet.
You haven't seen it? Oh, okay.
I listened to it. I haven't watched it yet. I've got to watch it.
Yeah, so you drifted off the screen, so I had to, fill in the space. Yeah, for a bit. Got annoying after again, so I just put a picture up. But anyway.
We're doing well. We're doing pretty good at this whole, producing our own show.
Oh, it's...
Now
I think we're going to sit down all the time.
Now I understand why when you go on stages...
They got the X mark.
They have the X mark there.
You
so
don't
they
move
say,
away from
stand there and don't move. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll stand with these square between my... What is it? Cross between my legs. All good.
But, so, you brought this item to the table on this episode. We're going to discuss the referendum that we had a few weeks ago here in Australia, and the no vote getting up across the country. And what did you think the whole referendum, where did you stand with it?
At the start, like the very start, when we first started hearing about this thing, I was like, oh, I don't really have a problem with this. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, sounded fairly, legitimate, and sounded like, I was like, yeah, I'm on board with this. Sounds pretty good. And I think most Australians were on board with the idea, like the concept. I don't think, many people were sort of against it. But as time went on, as the months went on, I became more and more in the no camp. Like I was just, I very started off. It was slowly drifting, and then all of a sudden it was like a downhill run. I very quickly drifted away, and I think that's like I said. Yeah, I reckon we should talk about it because I think there is a lot of stuff out there, a lot of stuff being said by people out there at the moment, particularly directed towards people who voted no. So I'm not talking about the people who ran the no campaign, and I'm not talking about the people who ran the yes campaign. I don't really care a great deal about either of those sort of, the campaign component of it, because just like federal and state elections and local government elections, bullshit on both sides, all right? So I don't really care about that. But what I do and what I am caring about is people who voted no, who are still feeling like they can't say they voted no because they're going to be attacked by people who don't want to listen to why they voted no. And I think that's kind of like why I want to have this chat, because I reckon there's a lot of sort of still miscommunication, maybe, is probably why I'm saying it, and a lot of hatred towards people who voted no. But they all had their own reasons, and I reckon we haven't really discussed a lot of those reasons, and I think we should be, because I think it's important to discuss why a lot of people voted no, because there's a number of different reasons. I think from what people I've spoken to, I've kind of got there's 4 or 5 reasons now that seem to be coming through really strong, but those things aren't being said out in public because people are afraid to talk about it, which is not what should happen when we have these things.
So what do you think were some contributing factors for people to vote no, other than the racist one that people are saying?
So I will say this so that we can cover that bit off straight away, because that's, I don't want to say it's quick, because then that sounds like we're fobbing it off, but I'm not trying to fob it off at all. But in a quick answer to that is, I 100% agree that there would be people out there, 100%, that voted no because they're racist. Right? You would be lying to yourself if you think that people out there, some people out there didn't just vote no because they are racist towards Aboriginal people. And in fact, they're probably racist to everybody, like everyone except for a white person, okay? Which is just it's just childish, it's bullshit. Grow up, move on, it's pathetic, right, in that sense. But so 100%, I acknowledge that. But I don't reckon that is why people voted no. I honestly don't believe that. I know a couple of people who are racist. And when I say I know them, I wouldn't say I'm friends with them. I know them through people or whatever, and you'd run into them every now and then. They're people I don't like to talk to because they are racist, and they are just, to me, they're just stupid, ignorant people. But there's a lot of non-racist reasons for why people voted no, and that's myself included. I voted no in this election, in this referendum, I should say, for a number of reasons. And these reasons seem to be the same reasons a lot of other people voted no as well. So if I go off the first one, all right, first and foremost, if the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, all right, Albo, as we'll call him on here because we just will, it's easier. If he's going to stand up as the Prime Minister and say, we need to have a referendum to change our constitution to include a voice for Aboriginal people or First Nations people in the constitution, then I think that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, right? But there's some issues there when the Prime Minister himself can't sell that to the people of Australia. That's your job. It's your job to lead, and your job as a part of leading is to get people to come along with you. And he can't do that. He has not been able to do it since he became the Prime Minister. All right? And when he was being asked by people, direct point on TV, radio interviews, all sorts of things, there's so many opportunities that you can go and find this stuff where he's asked to explain what the voice means, what the referendum is, how it's going to look, what it would do, all these sorts of things. Because people are trying to find out. They're trying to get information from you so they can make a valid, important decision based on facts, right? And he's saying he can't tell people that. He doesn't know. I haven't read in one interview on live TV, they say to him, have you read the Uluru Statement? And he goes, no, it's 120 pages. I can't be expected as a Prime Minister to read that document. Okay, have you read any of it? No, it's not my job to. I have people who read it who tell me what needs to happen. Right, there's a problem. So I understand as a Prime Minister he's busy. I get that 100%, and I understand that they all have, politicians, CEOs of company, all sorts of people, have people who do things for them and provide them advice through briefs and all that sort of stuff. But if you're going to be the leader of the country and you're going to put a referendum down, a significant change in our history, significant change in the way we operate as a country, and then you're going to say to people, I haven't read it, I don't know what's in it, I don't need to read it, you just need to do this, then they go on and asking questions about, well, what will this mean if we do it? And he goes, we haven't worked those details out yet. We just need you to vote yes first, and then we'll work out the details later on.
All right, so now, from my understanding and how the media fucking took this, and I did my own research into it all. The media made it sound like that it was 120-something pages when that was all minutes from meetings that they all had.
Yep, correct.
There was only basically one page that told you what those Indigenous leaders were asking at that original meeting in Uluru.
Correct.
But that's not what we were voting on.
Correct.
So this was the thing. The spin was all about the voice or the Uluru Statement of the Heart. It was all about that, but it was not what we were voting on.
That's right. And this is another part of that problem, right? So, as you know, it's 120 page document. There's not much in it, right? So we go back to that. There's one page. There's one real page.
Yeah.
He can't talk about it. He's the Prime Minister. He can't talk about one page of important information. And then what we were actually voting on, technically speaking, had nothing to do with it.
But it technically did have something to do with it. It was simplified.
It's simplified, yes. But if he can't, the Prime Minister, if he can't talk to that and he can't tell us as a country what that means and what he's asking us to do, people aren't going to follow that.
Like, I'm very surprised that I could even explain it to people in layman's terms of what was being asked.
Yeah, well, there you go.
All it was like a union body.
Yep.
So the union goes in. That's what it was, advisory body.
It's an advisory body, yeah.
That's all it was going to do.
Yep.
It was just going to be there and go, hey, this is what we think. Because you always hear the CFMEU or the ACTU all going in and having their say on the radio and saying, hey, this is what we think the government doing. They're lobbying for certain things. And that's what this was.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be an Indigenous lobby group to then suggest, well, no, we don't like that. Maybe you should think about that. But that's where I think everyone got scared, because then it came taxpayer money, not membership money.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. But then I guess that kind of rolls on to the next parts of the issues that people had with it. So the next part, from what I heard from a lot of people, and I got to admit, I was in this exact same boat. You tick the yes or the no, yeah? That's all you had to do was tick yes or no.
No, you had to write yes or no.
Oh, sorry, right, yeah, you're right.
You didn't even vote, did you?
No, I did. I just remember now. I got confused. I've even got the photo of me doing it. So, you're right, yes or no. But a lot of people had a lot of significant concern, because if we wrote yes on there, okay, and you really wanted to do that for the First Nations people, for our Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islanders and stuff. A lot of people wanted to do it. We wanted to say yes. But a lot of people knew that would then give him access to our Constitution. What were they going to do in the Constitution without us knowing about it? Outside of this.
No, when you're voting on that, that's all it was going to do, was introduce Chapter 9. That's what I got here. This is what we were going to introduce.
As soon as they've got access to the Constitution, doesn't matter what that says, I tell you right now, the law is very clear.
So
as soon as they get access to the Constitution, they're allowed to change it at that time.
What else were they going to plan on changing then?
Well, I don't know, but what I'm saying is a lot of people were concerned that once they had access to it, they could change things without people knowing.
Because you realise people writing this document in 1901, they didn't know what was the future, what the future was going to be.
Yeah, 100%.
So these things are meant to be updated.
100%.
They can't be outdated for 200. Well, how many? 1901. Fucking whenever Federation
doing maths now.
100 and something years.
I said no maths on the show.
That's the thing. It's meant to change.
100% it's meant to change.
And this is what the problem in America is. With their fucking
their gun laws.
Their constitution and shit like that.
The gun law thing, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying we shouldn't change the Constitution. But the problem is people in this country have lost significant respect for government. They don't trust them anymore. 85% of people in this country do not trust the government anymore. Period. They know they lie. They know they're corrupt. They're not happy with them. All right? They were concerned that once they had this opportunity, they could do anything in the Constitution and we may not know about it, because then all they would show you is whatever, Chapter 9 or whatever it was. That's all they would then show you. This is what we did. And you look at that and go, that's pretty good. What about all the other stuff they've done that you weren't aware of? Like, for instance, we spent how much money on this? $400 million. $400 million. So our country's in a fair bit of trouble at the moment, economically. Businesses are in trouble. The government themselves are in trouble. All the state governments are in trouble, right? $400 million on a campaign for the yes people. Only for the yes people, not for anybody else.
No, that's for the referendum. It wasn't for a yes campaign.
For the referendum. But $400 million. You ever read Section 51 of the Constitution?
No.
Pretty sure it's changed in 2012 to say that First Nations people and Aboriginal people all have the exact same rights and power to Parliament and any other component as everybody else in Australia.
So how did that get changed if there was no referendum?
Well, exactly. This is the point. This is why did we have to spend the money if they can do it anyway? Because they've clearly done it. If you look it up, they clearly did in 2012. It used to be really bad. Section 51 of our Constitution used to be known as race power. And if you actually read it, it was pretty bloody nasty. Like it was disgusting, to be honest. Like, it's embarrassing to read it.
Yep.
It was changed to make sure that all the nasty stuff about Aboriginal people and First Nations people, which it bloody should have been changed. It should never have been in there to start with. But obviously back when they wrote it, they thought it was okay to do this sort of stuff. It should never have been in there, but it was changed. So we didn't really have to do this. So again, that's where people who went looking into things because they were concerned and they didn't know where to go, they started looking at this going, well, hang on a minute, you've already got it. Why are you doing this for? It seems like you're going to do something else. And Anthony Albanese isn't exactly a kind of person who Australia is warming to. Like, at this point, I would say that he's probably the most disliked Prime Minister we've had.
You reckon?
Yep.
Okay.
There'll be people out there who are going to be, oh, he's the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, 100%. But you go and really talk to people, most people go, this guy's an idiot. But, it's like that old saying, you got to choose one of the two devils. And people went, oh, we'll take that guy because the other guy was useless. So we'll take him, and this guy's no better at all. So I think there's issues there with what people believed was potentially going to happen. So I think it concerned people that if they got access to the Constitution, what else was going to be buried in the background that we couldn't see, that we didn't know was going to happen.
Okay, so you're a bit into this conspiracy side of if you give government X amount of power, they can take a little bit extra, you reckon?
I'm not in the conspiracy. I'm well aware. You give government a little bit of power, they take a ton of it.
So you reckon the vote on this, Chapter 9
Yep.
of the Constitution, could have led to something different or something else happening in the Constitution?
100%.
What do you reckon would have? What, in your mind, what was the worst-case scenario that you could think could happen?
Well, worst case scenario, I think there could have been a potential for them to try and grab people's properties.
So you reckon people's property? Okay.
Yeah, potentially. And I'm not saying, and we're really clear about this, I'm not talking about Indigenous people and their, what do they call it, their land claims, or is that what they call it, land claims? Yeah, like, I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm not talking about them at all. I'm talking about the government going after people's properties and things like that and trying to change stuff in that regard. Potentially trying to change the way government operates or functions in this country. I think they could have done a lot of things, and I think they may have had intentions to do that.
Yeah, right.
And that's not, and I'm not the only one who says that. There is a lot of people, even people who I would say are very, very strong-willed, strong-minded people when it comes to the Labor camp. Like, Labor is everything to them, all right? Even they voted no because they were very concerned about what might happen if they got their hands on the Constitution. And these people were gutted because they actually wanted to vote yes. They actually wanted to, but they went no way because we feel like there's been too much happening in the last few years, and this is kind of one of my other points because this, again, leads to some of the conversations I had with people. People were concerned that over the last few years, governments have shown they really don't care about their people. They've shown that they really don't care about anything other than their power grab and their money and whatever they're trying to do. People were concerned that this was just a continuation of that stuff and that this would potentially lead to them being able to change things and create different power or have a greater power structure or whatever over everyday people through the Constitution. And it's funny because when you think about it, how many people do you know that have read the Constitution?
Well, it costs a lot of money to buy them.
It does. It does, but you can read it online for free.
Is it? For free online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can read it online for free.
Right.
Well, that's where I read stuff anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Like if you type in now, you got your computer there, you type in now, section 51 of the Constitution, race power, and it'll pop up, which is really bad, but it will, or it should. But yeah, and then you can read the sections, and you can read just about any section really. So it doesn't cost you, but do you know many people who have read the Constitution?
No. You have to be very into law, I guess, to understand it because it's all waffly.
You do, but it's a very important document to read, and people should understand it. I have not read all of it; 100% would be too much. But over my life, I have looked at different sections of the Constitution to understand different things, and it's I can see why people would be concerned that they might try and change things in there, and then use it, and then if they go, "Oh, but it's in the Constitution," most people go, I've never read it before. So
you're talking about powers of the Parliament, 51 legislative powers of the Parliament.
Is this the Constitution?
Yeah,
it probably will be because that's what it is. Powers of the Parliament, it's the Constitution.
I'm assuming what's V, Part 5, 51 legislative powers.
You'd have to look. You'd work it out pretty quickly because it's written pretty nasty stuff in there.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, you can find.
There's a lot of parts to it.
Oh, there's heaps. There is a ton of parts to it. So it's just I think people were concerned about, especially of what's happened over the last few years and what's continuing to happen around the world. A lot of people were concerned that they would change things in there, get greater power potentially, and what would that mean for the people in Australia? The other one I heard, which this one really. When I first heard this, I really dived into a conversation about this with someone because they really raised quite an interesting point, I thought. Okay. So again, $400 million on the referendum being led by Labor. Okay. The Labor government has historically, or actually I won't say historically, I'll say in the last few years is probably a better way of putting that. The last few years has done a lot of work at their state level and federal level to make sure that they have got, what do they call it, to have quotas of male and female politicians, right? So that to make sure that it's got equal balance. Why don't they have any quotas in their party to make sure that they've got more Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people in Parliament? Therefore, they would have a greater voice with more actual politicians who can actually make laws and not be advisory. They can actually make laws and challenge things and go after things for their people. Why haven't they made quotas for that? To make sure they get more people in to Labor to do what they're asking for. That wouldn't cost money. That would just be smart. And that would show First Nations people that we really do want you to be in there. Like, we want you to be a part of this. We want you to come in and tell us what your concerns are. Because I don't know what the concerns are of people in Darwin or in our back Northern Territory or Western Australia or, potentially even here in Victoria. I don't know. I kind of rely on people like politicians to tell us what those problems are. That's their job. So why aren't they putting a quota in to get more in? Wouldn't that be a more... Like, that to me seems like that would be a much better thing to do than spend $400 million on a referendum that, honestly, I could have told you from day one, well, not day one, but within about a month of this referendum thing, sort of being announced that we were going to do it, within about a month I could have told you it wasn't going to work. Because I met two people in the entirety of this whole process. I met two people who were voting yes. And I met hundreds and spoke to hundreds who said no.
Okay.
And we're always going to say no. And it seemed to be a very common. And when you went online, looking at different things, not looking at mainstream media, looking at all the different things, there was far more people going no than what there was going yes. And when you sit back and you think about it, wouldn't that be a greater idea? Have their quota to get more First Nations people into the Parliament where they can actually have a real voice. And this is where it kind of, when I was having this conversation, I went, this is interesting because one of the people on the No campaign is an Aboriginal woman from Darwin. She's in there as a senator to represent Australia, but she represents Darwin and she represents, I guess in a sense she's going to represent First Nations people because she is an Aboriginal lady. They were attacking her and telling her she didn't know what she was talking about. She's Aboriginal. We had a white person telling a First Nations senator, you don't know what you're talking about. Not sure that is really showing that the Labor Party, in particular, was going to be fair in this process. It just, like, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people saw that and went, hang on a minute, you want us to vote yes to give them a bigger voice, but the person who's in there, who was voted in to be a senator by her people, she's saying she doesn't think this is a great idea, that she's got concerns with it, and you're yelling at her. You're telling her she's wrong. I think people saw that and went, they don't care. They couldn't care less if this gets up. There's something going on in the background here. They don't really care. So I just, it's part of those conversations.
So now, what do you think about the states? There's a few states around the country that are doing their own treaty.
Yeah, see, again, I don't...
Is it a bit baffling that, states can
it doesn't
have to do one and they can just do whatever they want? Well, I don't even know what a treaty entitled,
no
comes out of a treaty.
No one seems to know what the treaty's going to be or what it'll look like. Again, this is where I say this is the importance of understanding the Constitution. Because if you read the Constitution, okay, this is where people get this very confused. And I have to be honest, I was very confused about this until recently as well. I was talking to a good mate of mine who's a lawyer. It's a great bloke. And he knows this stuff so well, so bloody well. And he said to me, he goes, go and read the Constitution in relation to how state government and federal governments really work and operate in this country. Like, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you have a look at it, he goes, if you read it the way that lawyers read it and the way that the government reads it, we're assuming this is how they're reading it. It's their document, effectively. If you look at it, the federal government has literally no control or power at any time over any state government in this country. If you actually read it, and then depending on how you interpret it, each individual state in Australia is technically their own country. And so the premiers that we vote in, they are the overarching power no matter what. And so this is when we had COVID going on a couple of years ago, and people were like, how come Scott Morrison isn't doing more to slap these people in a line? Why is he not doing this for us?
Because we've got a powerful thing called the Victorian Constitution.
There you go, right? Because we have a thing called the Victorian Constitution, and the federal government can't touch it, and they can't do anything with it, because we are technically our own separate country within a country. And so the Prime Minister actually can't do shit to I don't even know why we've got a Prime Minister at this point. It seems pointless now.
But you've got to really look at it. The Governor General is the top dog.
100%.
And we don't vote for that person.
Well, yeah. Who puts the Governor General in power?
The Prime Minister, usually.
So the person who's meant to oversee the Prime Minister and is meant to sack the Prime Minister if he's not doing his damn job, or her job, depending on, because we had Julia Gillard in there, the person who's meant to sack them is appointed by the person they're potentially going to sack. It's fucking stupid.
Well, it's only happened once. Gough Whitlam.
It did, and they say, obviously there's a lot of talk about the Queen and stuff having a fair bit to do with that. But my point is, why aren't we voting for the Governor General? When we go and vote for the Prime Minister, maybe before we vote the Prime Minister, maybe a month before, 2-3 months before, maybe we should be voting for the Governor General of Australia. And then we vote the Prime Minister in. And that way, old mate, the Governor General, whoever it is, man or woman, don't really care. Could be an alien at this point, I wouldn't care. If there's an alien, they'll probably do something about it.
Now we're basically talking about we should go down the bloody Republican.
Oh, mate, I'm all for a president. I don't believe in this.
And then you vote for the president, and don't they? No, well, and then that's basically replacing the Governor General, who then was the representative of the royals.
Mm-hmm. But this is my point. Like the guy that has the power, the guy or woman, the guy or woman who has the power to remove the Prime Minister is appointed by the Prime Minister. Mm. They choose who they're never going to choose someone who's going to sack them. They're going to choose someone who's a mate. All of them have connections with whoever they are at times, and they appoint the Governor General. They've all got connections to them. It's the same here in Victoria. We have a Premier who went and appointed a family member to be the Governor of Victoria. She did nothing. She didn't stand up once when he was ruining the state and doing all sorts of crazy illegal shit. He's out of the country now. He's gone, so who cares? He won't come back, because if he does, he'll be in a whole heap of trouble. But he appointed someone who he knew was never do anything to him. It's ridiculous. Like, and this is in the Constitution, and this is where people have to understand the power of the Constitution. So instead of having a referendum of $400 million to say no and then making it sound like we're being racist, maybe people actually read it for the first time. Maybe people actually went and read their Constitution, or maybe if the government wasn't lying to people all the time and making us feel like we are second-class citizens to them, maybe if they stopped doing that shit, people might have said yes. Because it had nothing to do, I tell you right now, it had nothing to do with Aboriginal people. People saying no, it had nothing to do with them. And this is where I hate people saying, oh, they're being racist, they're, you just don't like black people. Fuck off. I love them. I reckon they're great. One of the reasons I voted no, I spoke whenever I had the chance. Whenever I met someone who said to me that they were, First Nations, Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, whatever they may have been, I would ask them. I would say, I don't want to sound disrespectful or rude, but do you mind if I ask you, this referendum thing, I don't know which way I'm going yet. I'm thinking no because of these, and they're like, oh, no, mate, say no. Please say no. Why? Because we never asked for this. We don't want it. We've never been consulted on it. The people over here that are running this campaign, they've never come and spoke to us. What would they know what our problems are? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a fair point. I spoke to a couple of elders in Melbourne and northern part of Melbourne. Elders, these are the people who are, high regard within Aboriginal communities. Spoke to them when I got a chance, whenever I saw them out and about. They were all saying, say no. Please say no. Okay. Are you sure? Yep. Say no. We're telling our entire communities, say no. We're talking to our families, and the other mobs in other parts of the country. Everyone's saying no, don't do it. The largest, now I've got to say, this is going off, I'm going off news here, okay? So I'm not saying I know this 100%. I want to be really clear on that because I didn't look up the stats and I probably should have. So I'm just, but a number of news channels were reporting that some of the largest areas in the country where they voted no, so like individual, council LGAs or, local government areas or those sorts of things, all right? Some of the largest areas that voted no had the highest known First Nations populations in this country.
Haven't you seen the map?
I actually haven't.
Oh,
to be honest, I haven't. Is that true?
Yeah, someone was showing through the maps, and the only places that voted heavily yes were basically
inner city suburbs, where they got no idea
everywhere else.
They don't know what's happening outside of the city.
High no.
There you go. And this is my thing. You can't say it's racist, right? And you can't go down that racist path and say that we're ignorant and we want to keep holding people back if the largest groups, the largest populations are saying no. And if you've got Aboriginal elders out there, if you go online and you go online away from the mainstream media, there is a ton of Aboriginal elders on there. They were holding live shows and things in the weeks leading up to it, so people could come and ask them questions. And they were talking to people about it. And I actually heard one elder say in his entire life of being an Aboriginal man and then becoming an elder within his community, this is the first time in his entire life he actually felt like white people, white Australians, actually cared about him, because they're actually asking him, what would you like? Do you want us to do this? He goes, I actually felt like, there's one thing that the referendum did for him, which he was happy about, was that it got people in his community to start talking more and engaging with more people in the community. And from that aspect, fantastic. If that's what the underlying thing was to do, fuck you got it. You did it. Well done. That's awesome. Mm. But this man, this elder, and he was quite an older kind of guy. I think he was from Sydney maybe, and he was saying he's never had so many conversations with white fellas in his entire life. And he goes, it was beautiful. He goes, it's been so good to have those conversations. He said, but what's even more important is that they've actually sat there and listened to my conversation, and they actually listened to what I had to say. And I think they walked away going, we're going to vote no. And that's what he wanted for his family. And so you can't then say we're racist because people are clearly listening to them. Isn't that what we wanted to do? Wasn't that the idea of this whole thing? Was to give them a voice? Well, we gave it to them. You know, in some people would say we gave it to them because,
in a way, yeah.
you know, in a way we did give it to them. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do these things. You and I think we've spoken before in here. I reckon we should do, you know, within our schools, we should be teaching more about Aboriginal culture. We should be rewriting the history books and going back and saying, well, hang on a minute. You know, Captain Cook did come here and do this, but ease up a little bit, all right? He fucking invaded the joint, all right?
Yeah.
Let's be really clear about that. And he killed a lot of people, and we had, you know, mass genocide, and there was wars and all sorts of things that happened. Like, let's actually tell the proper truth, the proper story of Australia. Do I think we should change our flag? 100%. I'm not up for it at all. I'd understand, and I'll be very clear about this and as respectful as I can when I say this. There's been a number of people who have worn our flag on their shoulder and gone overseas to fight in wars and have died in those wars under that flag, okay? And I respect every single one of them, and I wish they had to come home. I really wish they would have. So I still respect from that aspect. I respect, you know, that process. And there's plenty of people still walking around with that flag on their shoulder. And I'm proud of our flag. That's why I'm not saying I'm not proud of our flag. Does it represent the entirety of Australia, though? I don't think it does, and I don't think it's right. And I did have a guy say to me a few months back, he had a bit of an argument with me. It wasn't really an argument. It was a really heated debate that he was getting heated, not me. He was carrying on about how, you know, how dare we say that our Anzacs, our World War I and World War II diggers, they fought under that flag. Hate to tell you about history, champ, but they didn't. They went into war underneath
The
British flag. It was the Union Jack only. All of those pictures you see of Anzac soldiers flying Australian flags, it's called fucking clip art. Or whatever we use these days. I don't know. It's not our flag.
Clip art.
Can't remember what it's freaking out.
Got it there. Photoshop.
Photoshop, that'll do. Photoshop, clip art, whatever it's called. Whatever. Show my age now. Right, but it's all that stuff is it's all crap when those the biscuits come out every year in Coles and Woolworths, the Anzac biscuits, and they got our soldiers there holding the Australian flag. That's paintwork, champ. It's artwork, because our flag, I think it was like 1954 when we said that would be our flag.
Okay.
I think it's 1954.
Yeah, I can look it up.
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's 1954. But that wasn't the flag we went to war, like, you know, under World War I. Yes, we've been into plenty of wars since with that flag, and I respect that. But I think if we want to have this conversation and be fair to the people of Australia and be realistic, let's tell the history of Captain Cook and the landing for real. Let's actually talk about that and acknowledge that some people feel a particular way about that. Let's have a conversation about teaching Aboriginal culture within our schools, because it is a big part of our culture. You know, let's let our kids know about that sort of stuff. Let's get quotas for First Nations, Torres Strait Islander people, Aboriginal people to be in our parliaments. Let's get that in there so they've actually got a real voice that can actually do something about it. You know, let's have these conversations instead of having the conversation we had that's now made us out to be racist when we really haven't been racist at all.
Yeah, 1954. The flag became recognised by and legally defined in the Flag Act 1953. Is that what it is? What is it?
I can't believe I actually got that right.
But it was approved by King Edward VII, whoever the fuck number that is, in 1903.
Eighth, maybe? No.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I don't do Roman numerals.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
Okay, so now they're talking about. Now I don't know how true this is, because this could be all taken out of context, because I saw it on TikTok. But there is a Sky News interview with Peter Dutton. I don't know if it's recent or if it's previous, like old. He claims that he will. It claims that he will take to the next election. The Liberal Party will take their version of The Voice and do a referendum. Do you see yourself voting yes in that?
Probably not.
No?
Because they'll fuck that up as well, like they fucked everything else up in this country.
Okay.
This is my point, right? So now he said, so they wouldn't support this current one.
This is one thing I don't understand. Why didn't they all come together and nut it out?
So it's called a bipartisan agreement, or bipartisan support is what they call it. Basically, that happens when they put, like, Labor put something up. Liberal looks and goes, yeah, it's got some merit. Kind of happy with it. We're kind of happy to look at this, and whatever. We might not totally agree with it, but we're kind of happy. We reckon we can work with this and let's, do some. They didn't do it because they looked and went, nah.
Too hard.
Not happy about it. No, I don't think it was a too hard basket. People say that. I think they looked at it and went, where's the detail? Because even they have said there was no detail in what Labor wanted to do. And this is the problem. When you've got the two governments, right, on either side that control our country, when one of them is saying the other one is not really providing them with information about what's actually going to happen if this gets up, there's a problem there. Because if they see that's a problem, then clearly the people of Australia will see that that's a problem.
You're right.
So now that he's come out and said, "Oh, we'll take it," don't waste your fucking Dutton. Don't waste your time, mate. Don't waste your time. It's just stupid at this point. If you want to do something for real, put quotas into your party as well to say that we want this amount of, we want this many people within our party must come from, First Nations background. Right, you've got to have some kind of First Nations background, and then we'll let you come in and be a part of. Well, not let you come in because that sounds fucking stupid. That sounded very racist. That sounded like we were just bringing them in now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But actually have quotas and go out there and look for people within those communities who would be really good representatives of our First Nations people. Get them into Parliament, and let's have it sit down and have a conversation with the entire country, not over like a few months. It might take a couple of years, but let's start talking about, the reality of changing what our actual history is, and not changing our history, but talking about our history the way it should be spoken about, the truth about it. Let's talk about that stuff. Let's introduce Aboriginal culture into schools. I think it's a great idea.
Well, I think I was just randomly taught it at school.
Yeah, because, so was I. There's you get little bits, but not a huge amount.
Australians at War.
Yes.
Eve was the subject I did, and the teacher that was running that. So I think when you really look at it, they were talking about the Boer. You'd think, the First War would be the Boer War that Australia was a part of. But no, he went into the
war here.
The wars here with the Aboriginal people, and then also the Australians that were asked to go over to New Zealand to fight the Maoris.
Yeah.
Because they were obviously had issues over there because
had some dramas.
Typical things. But it's sort of strange when you're just sort of shown it and you're like, oh, okay. So it did happen. Stuff did happen, but
heaps of stuff happened. Like I think I was in year 10, so I don't know how old you are then, but I must have been 15 or something maybe.
Yep.
Year 10 was the first time I really ever heard of, because I did Australians at War in year 10. It was one of my biggest subjects. I loved Australians at War. I loved learning all about our Anzac and stuff. It was in year 10 when I first found out about the Aboriginal trackers from Darwin that were getting used to, within our military to help them overseas. And I'm like, how come this is the first time I'm hearing about this? Then you go back and look at it, and it's massive how many were used. But they don't talk about it. I literally stumbled across it. I had to do a project, and I'm like, what am I going to do this on? And I'm stumbling through, looking through things, and this popped up. I was like, how come I'm just hearing about this now? This is ridiculous. So I think it's all that sort of stuff. Let's get those things happening. I'm quite happy to have a conversation about changing our national anthem. I don't think our national anthem fits us as a country. I don't think it ever has. Well, it did at the time when they wrote it, but it really does not speak about our country one little bit. My favourite song, and the song that I think should be the anthem of Australia, and I don't know what the actual name of it is. I think it's I Am Australian. That's the name of it, isn't it? Yeah. That's a song that speaks about our history, that talks about our history way back when, and it talks about the current time as well, because it talks about the multicultural diversity within Australia. And the rock version is really good, and I reckon that would be great. To see our sportsmen and women up on a podium at an Olympics with that thing blaring, that would just be awesome. I find it really funny that there's lots of Australian people who love watching the rugby because they like to see the haka.
Okay.
And I think everyone likes to see the haka. I love to see the haka. I'm like, this is great. All right. We have one.
Yeah, the war dance.
We have the war dance. It's not known as the haka. It's known as a war dance. You actually watch that thing. It's kind of gets you fired up a bit. I'd love to see that. Get rid of all your smoking ceremonies. Like, well, not smoking ceremonies. I'm not happy to have a smoking ceremony. But like, you know, all this like welcome the country stuff, you know, okay, have it. Maybe when we've got like a significant thing happening, let's do the welcome to country. I don't have a problem with that. But every single time I go to a meeting within a government department, what's the purpose of that? It's not achieving anything at all. Also, once we've finished doing the, you know, if you're going to make me sit through it every time at a government meeting, at least do the war dance as well. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time at this point. All right? Let's do the welcoming ceremony every time we have a significant event taking place. And there's a lot of them every single day that you could quite easily do these at, which I think would be really good. Let's start getting the war dance happening a bit more often. Like, let's get that going. I reckon that'd be cool. Love to see all the kids run around like, you know, doing their war dance. It'd be fun as. Let's get that happening.
Then it'll turn into an Adam Goods situation. Everyone's scared of invisible spears.
See, that's the problem with this country and the world. But look, I don't know why we're not talking about those sorts of things. Let's talk about that stuff and do those things instead of wasting money and upsetting people with, you know, all this other stuff that they're going to try and do. Let's actually do some things that can really help the country move forward together as one. You know, like the Australia Day thing every year. I get sick of hearing about it now. I've actually lost any interest in hearing about it now. Still celebrate Australia Day. I don't celebrate Australia Day for any other reason than for most parts, I'm pretty proud of our country and I'm pretty proud of our people. And I celebrate Australia Day to think about how lucky we are as a country to be as free as what we are. You know, like we're still relatively free compared to a lot of other countries in the world. It's not getting, well, it won't be for much longer, I don't think, but we are still relatively free. We've got good people here. Majority of people in this country are great people, hard-working people. We've got some fucking lazy people who need to get the hell out. But, you know, we've got some issues, but we're a pretty good country. And that's what I celebrate, that stuff. I celebrate the fact that, you know, we can come together. I don't celebrate Captain Cook. I couldn't give a rat's ass about the bloke. He's a terrorist. He was English. Like, you know, I got a Scottish background.
Yeah.
So, you know, and if you read history, that's what happened. So let's stop pretending it didn't happen and just let's come together, make a bit of like a healing for the whole country. Let's start talking about the truth. Let's start changing how we do some things and stop with all this bullshit. Stop trying to... I actually believe there was a lot of separation and divide with this thing and we didn't need to have it. It wasn't there. I'm not saying that there's not issues in Aboriginal communities. 100% there is. Wouldn't $400 million be better to go and help them than spending it on a referendum that most people could have told you was going to be a no from the start?
I think it's more important for foreign aid at this stage.
Well, again, let's not go down that path. Like we've got these young Aboriginal kids. I can't remember what. It's one of one of the islands up north it's around the Northern Territory area. There's kids up there. There's some form of heart disease that they can get that kids aren't supposed to get, but up there, young kids around the age of 10 to 12, like the amount of them that get it is significant because of the way that they live. $400 million could have built them a medical centre and staffed it and got education programs and helped that community to try and stop whatever's causing it, whatever it is, to try and stop those things from happening into the future. That's where the $400 million should have went. Not on some paper to divide the country, to upset a whole heap of... How about we put the money in up there? Do that. Stop sending our money overseas for people and start spending on the people over here that apparently... I was going to say apparently then, but it's not like that. It's actually happening. Give it to those poor buggers. You want to do something, government? Anthony Albanese, Peter Dutton, you fucking morons. You want to do something about it? Stop spending my money on shit. Give it to them. Build stuff for them. Get staff up there. Do whatever we have to do to help those communities. That's what we should be doing. That's how you get people to come together. That's how you get all of us to be together and be friendly and happy and, keep pushing this country forward. Not this divisive bullshit where you got people saying one side's racist, the other side's spreading misinformation. People attacking each other. Like, you see the amount of people attacking each other at the polling booths and stuff? Oh, there was heaps of it. People, I'm not going to lie to you, it was mainly from the Yes campaign. Attacking people.
Okay.
Assaulting people. Abusing people. Because they said, no, I don't want your Yes thing, I want to get the No one. And then abusing them. These people weren't abusing them. They were just like, no, I don't want that one, I want to get the No one. That happened to me where I went. There was one guy there.
Of course, you rev someone up, did you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
No. I was saying where I was really peaceful. Like, there was one guy there with the No stuff. There was 2 young girls there. There's 2 young girls with the Yes stuff. There was one older guy there with the No stuff. I walked up. He said, would you like one of these? Tell you, mate, I'll take one. I got to be honest. He said, do you want to take one? I said, yeah. And he goes, when you come out, can I have it back? I'm like, yeah, why? And he goes, I've ran out. Because everybody took his. And then the 2 Yes girls, they had like handfuls of the stuff. They had like big. And the girl said, oh, would you like one of ours? No, look, I've already made my decision. I just wanted to know exactly how to follow it. But thank you very much. Hope you're having a good day. And she's like, oh, yeah, no worries. Thank you. And I just walked in. Like, there was no, I did have a bit of a thing with the person who gave me my pencil. Like, oh, you get it. Here's your pencil. I'm like, no, I don't need a pencil. She's like, no, you use a pencil. I said, oh, I've got a pen. I got my pen. She's like, oh, you can't. I said, I've got my pen. And she's like, oh, okay. But the kids like a pencil? Yep, kids have a pencil. So, but...
Well, there you go, 4 million or whatever.
Well, how much money do they spend on frigging pencils?
Yeah. Well, they had enough from the last election, probably. Because it was all the AEC stuff.
That's right, yeah. So, anyway, I just think that's... I think we've had a good conversation about it tonight, but I think there was a lot of division when we didn't need to have division for nothing. And we could have done so much more for Aboriginal First Nations people with $400 million than wasting it on this thing that just divided people.
Well, you just simply got to get your fucking act together and get your party off the ground. Your political party.
Sign up.
No.
You signing up?
Not yet.
Need 500 members.
Oh, do you?
Can't get off the ground without 500 members, mate. So, unless you're signing up along with all the other people. Yeah, see, exactly.
I might like my own political party.
Yeah. We'll call it the Haydos's house, is what we'll call it. Haydos's house. Then when you get in, we'll call it the Haydos's house party. In his mum's dungeon.
Well, I think that was an interesting take on the No campaign. It wasn't very Sky Newsy and it wasn't too ABC-y.
Fucking ABC, don't get me started on those pricks.
Well,
ABC, you should be disgusted in what you did to Heston Russell in a November platoon, and I hope you all go down burning flames of hell.
Oh,
we're going to talk about that. We're doing that.
Okay,
we're going to see if we can get Heston to come on.
Yeah,
maybe we might have to do it via the phone. But I think the more people that can hear from Heston and talk about what those pricks at the ABC did to him and the government and the military, the better. But that's another podcast. I'm starting to get angry just thinking about it.
All right, this has been episode 15 of the staging area. You can get in contact with us at tsa@militum.com.au. The staging area on Facebook. Militum Productions on Instagram and TikTok. And the podcasts are available video format on Rumble and YouTube. And the audio versions are on Google, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Oh, I've been Hayden Mack. That has been Simon Roy Lance.
Stay safe, people.